Good morning. This is the editor's desk, and I'm here with Matt Keys from thedesk.net. Matt, how are you?
Good this morning. How was your vacation, Rick?
It was on the one hand too short, but on the other hand, I'm recording 7 shows this week. How
Wow.
did all that accumulate? Anyway, listen, the one thing I did this weekend that I want to talk about is I went to go see a Swedish sci-fi movie called Watch the Skies. And I specifically went to see it because it was using AI dubbing by a company called Flawless. And one of the recordings that I'm doing this week is with the CEO of Flawless. So that'll appear on one of my shows. And what's interesting is that most dubbing is recorded live by somebody who's not the actor, right? Kind of pretending to be the voice of the actor, and you're watching the move look like this, and the sound is wrong like that underneath it, and it doesn't match. This time, and I'll learn more, apparently they actually had the actors record enough content. I'm not sure what language they did it in, I'll find that out, that the AI learned their accents, most notably learned their sort of pattern of speaking. And so the dubbing was virtually flawless, the best I've ever seen on a movie or on television. And if this company can make the jump quickly, you have folks like Netflix who are importing tons of offshore content that is, by definition, badly dubbed. And
hmm
real fans of the movies would rather see subtitles anyway. But casual fans like me, I can't read the subtitle. I want to hear the dubbing. And good dubbing done that way. And apparently, it is SAG-AFTRA agreement compliant. So the
Good.
actors actually participate and they are reimbursed. And what's most interesting, and then I'll leave it, is this movie was made in 2022
Oh,
in
interesting.
Sweden. And then all this work was done more recently for a very limited US release. So this was a show that was in the can.
hmm
This didn't have to be done as part of the production process. I think it's groundbreaking. And frankly, since we've already missed the deadline, if they get any work done in television, since I'm a member of the Academy, I'm going to nominate them for a Technology Emmy. I think
Oh,
it's a big deal.
fantastic.
And now I'll stop talking. Well,
No, I,
not
I, I'm glad
exactly.
you, I'm glad you brought that up. Two things on this. We're actually doing at the desk. We're doing an interview that I can't talk too much about because it's embargoed until later this week.
Okay.
But you'll see it on the desk. We'll have email blasts about it and so on and so forth with an executive who is very well known in our circles, will be known to our audience, who is doing something interesting in the very space that you set up with your conversation with your
Okay.
it's doing something in AI. Can't talk too much about it, but it's definitely for this executive uh, kind of a shift in what they were doing before, but will make sense when you see the story. On the issue of AI and generative AI specifically, we've seen a couple of companies do some interesting things with AI. To a quick note, Sinclair's The Tennis Channel overseas has been dubbing some of their shoulder programming into other languages, specifically Spanish. And they're partnering with some tech companies that are helping to deliver localized content in localized languages using generative AI, much in the same way that you described, where it's dubbed, but you can't really tell that it's dubbed to the point where they're even matching the facial expressions, the lip
Yeah.
movements of the language that you're hearing, even though it was originally in a different language. And the second point to make is coincidentally, I was watching a video yesterday. It was a product review on YouTube. And YouTube has started to roll out generative AI features that are very similar in the dubbing. And it did not occur to me until about halfway into this video that the video was originally dubbed in Mandarin. It was originally filmed in Mandarin,
Wow.
and it only became clear to me when I saw the product box and it had a non-English,
Yeah.
writing on it.
Yeah.
And then I noticed the lips moving, and I went, "Oh, this doesn't match up." And it was that feature. The content creator had dubbed a bunch of different versions of this video, but the title, the description, the all the way down to the accent was flawless. It was flawless English. So, this is going to be one of those technologies that, much like the internet did, makes our world a little bit smaller. Hopefully, makes our world a little bit better, and it's going to be something to keep an eye on moving forward.
I agree.
Speaking of
All
moving
right.
forward,
So let's talk about the news, man. There's stuff going on. What do you got?
yeah, we got two topics for today. I can pull up my notes here to see. I know one of them came out today and one of them came out yesterday, or excuse me, last week. So we'll talk about the one last week. IAB had their new friends last week. They generously extended an invitation for the desk to attend virtually. So we got to see a lot of the virtual presentations. I don't believe Samsung was one of the companies that presented virtually. If they were, we missed it, to be totally honest with you. But we did get some information about some of their product announcements that were coming out, and one specifically related to Samsung TV Plus that caught my eye. They are developing and launching at some point in the future, hasn't quite launched yet, their own linear television network. So you're familiar with Samsung TV Plus, right?
I am.
They had a press release maybe a month ago that touted themselves as the biggest distributor of fast content, free ad-supported streaming television content on a linear basis by number of channels. In the U.S. market, they have about 700. I think globally they operate somewhere around 3,500. Some of those are duplicated depending on which region they're in.
Yep.
And they say they have over 80 million active users on a monthly basis, which makes a lot of sense because the first thing that turns on when you first get a Samsung TV is Samsung TV Plus. It's automatically starts streaming. They've been pretty light on the details about how much people use Samsung TV Plus beyond that. But unless you go into the settings and turn it off, as I did on my smart monitor, it's the first thing that pops up when you turn your TV on. We have friends that have Samsung.
You just froze. Okay, now you're back.
Yeah, you're back too. So I could hear you, and your picture froze on my end, and I could see me just fine. So I don't know what that was, but are we?
Yeah, well, you can edit past that. Okay, so you're talking about Samsung TV Plus and the fact that you figured out how to bypass that. In my case, I've got LG's screen, and I just use their remote to switch over to Roku because Roku is where I have all my favorites and all my channels and all my everything.
Yeah, I don't know where I left off, but they say they're the big. We have friends that have Samsung.
They have the most screens. I mean, they have the most glass out there, and makes sense that they have the most platforms out there. And if they count everybody who turns a TV on as using the platform, then that makes the numbers work. The question is the depth, and it sounds like what they're doing is designed to increase their depth. So what is the Samsung TV network?
So Samsung has executed over the last few years on some licensing deals to get content that are somewhat exclusive or entirely exclusive to their platform.
Okay.
The two big ones that we've covered over the past few years are a deal with Conan O'Brien and his production company, which is now owned by SiriusXM, to bring in clips from his late night shows at NBC and TBS. He owns the rights to the episodes of those shows. They've turned them into clips. They've been distributing them on YouTube for a long time. And Samsung turned that into a linear 24-hour TV network that actually has global reach. You can get it in other countries. In the US, they've done the same thing with David Letterman, who also owns the rights to his shows from NBC and CBS during his career.
Right.
And they've turned those into clips. And for a while, it was just playing out clips of the show at random, but now they're actually programming them around themes. So they'll do, like Conan O'Brien's channel the other day had a half hour of clips where he was interviewing other talk show hosts, people like Larry King or Stephen Colbert or Jon Stewart. So they've actually gotten into programming these channels a little bit more. They've also licensed content, like Killing Eve from AMC Networks is one of the shows that they have brought over to their platform.
But
And
that's
the
not
idea
exclusive. That is not
no,
exclusive.
it's not exclusive. No, it's not exclusive to their platform. There have been times when they've had exclusive licensing deals, like the Ring of Power from Prime Video was something that they offered back episodes of on an exclusive basis. And the reason why I bring this up is because their new linear TV channel, they're calling the Samsung Television Network,
Yep.
will include all of this content scheduled in day parts. And
Yep.
that's a really critical part of which they didn't really talk too much about in the announcement. Actually, Bevan Fletcher at Stream TV Insider got a great interview with some of the executives from Samsung on their linear network. And the thing that stood out to me is they're programming this channel in day parts to see how people are watching content during certain times of the day, how they're engaging with it. And then it seems like they're going to take that insight and use it not only to figure out what content should we go buy from other, from content producers, from other distributors, but also how can we better sell our ad inventory to companies that are willing to buy linear. And
let's take that one more step. Given that their splash page is to a certain extent your position as a streamer on the splash page is paid. You got to pay to be number one, number two, number three, and if you're down at 475, pretty much you're not paying. But that could help them in the negotiation for who gets where on the splash page. Your content is shown to be more popular in a noon to 4 p.m. So on the splash page from noon to 4 p.m., you have an advantage of being over here in number one.
That's right.
And so licensing the position on the splash page also by day part, which is, there's ways you can spend it off. I do have to make a comment about exclusive deals. Exclusive deals are done by people who don't have an effective sales organization. Given as fragmented as our business is, my personal belief is exclusive distribution deals are idiotic. That if you really have ad-supported content and you own the advertising in the content, big deal, right? Mm-hmm. What you want is eyeballs. You don't want exclusivity. And popularity, which you don't get with exclusivity. So it is, on one hand, their linear channel programmed by day part feels like a reasonable throwback to traditional TV. I think the exclusive deals for that channel are idiotic.
And some of the deals that are exclusive, the clips from the late night shows are a good example. The exclusivity lies in the fact that Samsung can deliver it in a linear network, but or over a linear fast channel. But the clips themselves are not exclusive to Samsung. You can go on YouTube and watch them on demand, which is what I do and what a lot of people do. You can get the Letterman clips on Facebook. Some of the original stuff that he has put together is only on YouTube. It hasn't made it over to Samsung yet. The stuff the recap clips that he does with his old executive producer and his band leader. On the issue of exclusivity, we've seen some of this play out before, right? Apple struggled with the problem of exclusivity where they weren't getting as much reach. So what did they do? They started distributing MLS Season Pass on DirecTV and Comcast this year.
And by the way, licensing the second season of Severance increases to competitors, increases the audience for the third season of Severance on Apple Plus.
Right, and that was part of the strategy that Amazon took when they said, we'll license the back catalog of Ring of Power to Samsung TV Plus because, they're the biggest TV seller in the world, and we'll draw interest into the new season of Ring of Power on Prime Video, and we'll be able to, since it's on Samsung's platform, we'll be able to link the two together. One of the interesting announcements that came out of the new fronts on the topic that you just hit on is that Roku has gotten all of these exclusive sports programs into their platform. They developed a fast channel called the Roku Sports Channel, and that was originally launched through the Roku channel. That has now made its way to Samsung TV Plus, and it's the first time we've seen Roku's sports programming offered, not necessarily on different platforms, because you can get the Roku channel on Samsung, you can get the Roku channel on other platforms, but that lends itself to the idea that exclusivity is a great marketable point, except when it's not, because it usually doesn't translate into the very things that you're trying to execute on. And even with Apple TV, right? We've seen Apple TV with their subscription platform was long exclusive to Apple devices. Now you can buy it through Prime Video. We've talked a little bit about that before.
I watch mine on a Roku. I don't have an Apple TV Plus device, for God's sakes. Why would anybody?
I do think that what Samsung is doing with their linear network, if for no other thing, that it does kind of call back to the broadcast and cable network playbook, and
it really
they seem to want to reach advertisers that are interested in a fully formed linear channel that is day parted, that is programmed like a network, and maybe introduce some of these advertisers that are still on legacy TV to connected TV, the ones that haven't moved over. There's probably a lot of moving parts to this, and it's just going to be really interesting to shake out. I can't wait to see how this actually comes together. I've been checking my Samsung TV, and it's not on there yet. So Samsung, get on those.
Last thing, and we got to move to your other topic, but the one thing that we are seeing as fast channels are growing, and they're the not dependence, but the readoption of linear TV viewing, it is a different experience for the viewer. You turn the damn thing on and it runs. Okay.
That's right.
You don't have to work as hard, which means that your susceptibility or acceptance of advertising will be different when the thing is just washing over you than if you were spending 20 minutes to look for something and the first thing you see is another goddamn ad. Okay. So it's going to impact segments of the viewing population, and all viewers aren't not created equal, obviously. But there are people who want to just turn it on and let it go. Okay.
That's right.
Next chapter. What else do you have?
With the last few minutes that we have, this actually came out Monday morning, so we tape on Mondays. So this morning, Fox released their quarterly earnings report for their fiscal Q3. Everything looks good, except for they're spending a little bit more on sports, and that was to be expected because they had the Super Bowl this year. That really drove significant interest in Tubi.
Yes, it did.
We've long reported for the last few months that they are basically taking the elements of Venue Sports, which was their JV that is shut down, and incorporating that into a new direct-to-consumer streaming service, which now has a name. It's going to be called Fox One. And Fox One was actually a name that came out during Tubi's presentation at the IAB New Fronts last week, but everyone kind of glossed over it. And then Lachlan Murdoch, the CEO of Fox, said on the conference call today, they are for sure calling it Fox One. The interesting thing about this strategy is we've long reported that it will include the broadcast network and all of the programming. Most of the affiliates, they're still working through some of those deals. The cable networks, including news and sports, will be on Fox One. There's going to be some bundling arrangements that we're going to report on a little bit later in the week. But executives are really, really trying to drive home the point that they are not trying to disrupt the cable market. When you look at their financials, it's clear why. The retrans revenue still drives a lot of revenue.
It's the mortgage, man. We've always said it.
Yes. So they're trying to target what they call cord nevers, people that have never paid for TV before, and they don't want to cannibalize the existing cable and satellite, customer base. They don't want to convert them over to cord cutters because they think that's going to hurt their thing. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they market this, because I don't know how you make that difference without a distinction. But
okay, so here's my observation. Somebody finally got rid of Plus as the add-on. We've gone from something Plus to something One, which I sort of like. But then, since I am one of those who loves brand extensions, God knows I've done that to my own shows. When you have Fox 1, you have the instant ability to do Fox 2 and or Fox 3.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know that they'll brand it that way because it might cause a little confusion with some of their TV
I don't know,
channels,
but certainly if you name it plus, what's the next one going to be? Minus? No.
right.
All right, that doesn't fly. So, it's a smart move from a naming perspective. Humble opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that there's nothing additive there, right? They're not adding anything beyond the Fox
I
programming.
mean, like Peacock, what in the world was that?
I mean, Peacock to some degree, there's originals on there, but Fox has made it very clear that the programming that you get on pay TV or on with an antenna, that's what you'll get in this platform. You'll be able to bundle it with Fox Nation. My understanding is you don't have to take Fox Nation as part of it, which is not a service that they market to everybody. They market it to a very specific group of viewers, but since it's part of the Fox family, why not? There'll probably be some tie-ins with Tubi. There will be some tie-ins with other streaming platforms that has yet to be reported on. And I think that's probably why they didn't call it Plus. But Fox is also just, when it comes to branding and when it comes to developing services and networks, they've always tried to kind of do the opposite of what everybody else is doing, but not just to do the opposite of it. They try to pick a lane, stick to that lane, zig where others are zagging, and it's usually worked out for them. It's generally speaking has worked out for them. So Fox One should be on the market in time for football season. That's where they're targeting it. These bundles that might come out of it, they haven't really talked too much about it. I emailed a spokesperson today to find out more about the bundles. We know some stuff on background that we'll be reporting later this week, but they're not really talking too much about what their plans are. A lot of that is still coming together. But Fox One, look for it coming this fall.
Okay. And that, by the way, sits there right next to Fox News,
Mm-hmm.
Fox Sports,
Yep.
and something called Fox. And we're not even quite sure what Fox. I'm in the business and I don't know what Fox is. It's this odd corporation that includes sub-corporations underneath it. Fox Broadcasting? No, that's another group, but the consumer doesn't care about that. By the way, last thing about naming. I've got friends at NBC, and I strongly believe that when they introduced Peacock, which is now doing okay, they wasted a year building the brand of Peacock where they could have done NBC One or some variation thereof. And then you look over at Disco Warner, and they took one of the strongest television brands in the fucking world, and they threw it under the bus when they got rid of HBO and turned it into Max. And they could have done HBO One, HBO Plus, HBO anything, as long as it was HBO. So congrats to Fox for not wasting the opportunity of the Fox brand and name on the introduction of this. It's thumbs up on that one.
That's where we'll have to leave it for this week because we're out of time.
Okay, we will leave it for this week, and we'll catch everybody next week. And we all thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Bye.